we represent, as you know, businesses across the borough, small, medium, large, all types of businesses, shops, service businesses and so forth. So what would be interesting is to hear your perspective on the budget in respect to climate change initially, and what you felt should have been in place and wasn't.
Yeah, good morning, Anne.
Good morning to you, Sarah.
That was the big disappointment about the budget. I think there were lots of good short-term measures in there for business, particularly to help them get through the next few months. And I think that was welcome and necessary. But I think there's a huge opportunity missed in terms of tackling some of the long-term challenges that we have, and particularly climate change. And when we talk about climate change, we're talking, I think, primarily about carbon reduction, and there are so many different elements where that needs to take place. So transport, for example, what we were pushing for as Liberal Democrats is incentives to get people to switch their vehicles, for example, from petrol and diesel to electric vehicles. So fantastic facilities right across Richmond Borough now to recharge your electric vehicle. The government have pledged to ban the sale of petrol and diesel cars by 2030. So people need to start thinking about switching their vehicles. And I would have loved to have seen the Chancellor slash VAT on electric vehicles to 5%. Now that we have the freedom to set our own VAT rates, I'd have loved to have seen that. I'd have loved to have seen lots more moves actually to use the VAT system to encourage consumers to make more environmentally friendly choices and to start thinking about carbon reduction. We've seen the end recently of the Green Homes Grant that was doing a great deal to insulate people's homes and have much more energy efficiency, which is going to be crucial if we're going to cut carbon from our homes. But there was absolutely nothing in the budget about extending that or improving it. And that's a business issue as well, because there are going to be there's so much business potential in that particular area. And we really do need to see measures to increase skills in this area, which is a key block at the moment, but so many jobs, not just for local young people, obviously, but all across the country. And without these measures, we are very quickly going to become uncompetitive with particularly European competitors, because the cost of our energy will continue to rise while European competitors are making huge strides in investing in hydrogen, in electric, alternatives. And we really, really do need to make much bigger strides on this agenda. And that's why I was so disappointed not to see more of that in this budget.
I understand. And actually, in the borough, we have a lot of businesses who rise to the challenge every time there's a demand for green environmental sustainability. So I think and generally there appears to be a welcome for any initiatives in this area. Now, there was a green gilt, wasn't there, that the government
they're talking about a new green bond, and I think that's very welcome, because it will encourage private sector investors to put their money into green infrastructure projects, and that's very welcome and definitely something that we want to see more of. But I think really what the private sector are waiting for is some real guidance from the government as to which particular projects and investment, where they need to put their investment. So, I mean, for example, the government are now starting to commit to electric vehicles and electric vehicle charging points. That's now become a much less risky investment for the private sector, because they can see that's the direction of travel. We need to see a lot more of that from the government. They've set out their aspirations for a green industrial revolution, but now we need to see a plan. And once there's a clear plan and a clear set of policies, then the private sector can have confidence in investing in it. And that's what's still lacking.
Is there not, I did read somewhere about the bank that they're setting up to encourage?
That's right. It's called the Infrastructure Bank. But between you and me, Anne, it looks very similar to the Green Bank, the Green Investment Bank that a certain Sir Vince Cable set up when he was in government, which was promptly scrapped by the Tories when they came back into power.
I see.
In 2015, 2016, something like that. And they're now bringing back. So it's obviously an excellent idea.
Yes.
But you'll forgive me a little wry smile when I heard about that. But it is a fantastic idea, and it's exactly what we need to really kickstart investment into green infrastructure in this country. It's just a shame that we've lost a few years where we could have had that. We already did have that. And we could have continued to have it, but at least it's back now.
It's taken time, hasn't it, for the broader sections of the population to take on this agenda.
And I think one thing I do welcome is that commitment to tackling climate change is now a lot more embedded into political discourse than it was. Even, you know, we've been so busy talking about Brexit and obviously more recently about coronavirus, but this is the really big challenge for our generation. And I'm really pleased to see it's not just the Conservatives, but Labour as well. They did a big announcement yesterday on electric vehicles. You know, but both, I think both of the main parties have been really, really slow to get on board with this. But I do see it as a positive change that they are both now talking about it, at least. But so far from the government has been a lot more talk than action, and I think, you know, time is running out. It is really getting urgent, and they need to get on with it.
Business rates reform is a major concern of yours, as it is of businesses in Richmond Park constituency. So I wondered what your views are as to how that's going, and how that was tackled within the budget, and what more needs to be done. I'd be very, very interested, as with the businesses, to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, so I mean, the government are recommitting to reviewing business rates, but you know, that's been an ongoing commitment for a little while now, and I really do wish they would just hurry up and get on with it, to be honest with you. It's the same thing that comes up every time. I did a session with Kingston Chamber of Commerce on Wednesday, and that was their top issue as well. And I know, you know, from all the conversations I've had with small businesses across the constituency, it's the same thing every time. Now, obviously, we've had business rates holidays, and I really welcome that.
Yes.
But what I'm frustrated about is that instead of like really getting to the bottom of what is afflicting, if you like, our high streets and our retail businesses, I mean, and not just high streets, but businesses everywhere, what the government have done, instead of really looking at a kind of root and branch business rates reform that can really help every business, they've got high street funds, they've got town centre funds, but they're very much picking and choosing who gets to benefit from those. And I'm not going to get into the argument about which, you know, what it takes to qualify as a high street for one of those funds, but it just seems to me there's such a great opportunity there to help every high street through business rates reform. But instead of, they've shied away from that, and they're just giving out sweeties to selected beneficiaries. And that you know, that's not helpful. You know, businesses in Richmond are really, really struggling, but because we're a wealthy area, we're not going to get, you know, we're not going to be first in line for some of these things. But, you know, Richmond has great potential as a business centre, and we can help, you know, not just for people living in Richmond, but, you know, for a very wide area. So it's frustrating for me to see this kind of selected beneficiaries approach when, you know, there's an obvious reform we could make there that would help everybody.
Yeah, and I think you're right about, if Richmond prospers, then actually it impacts the rest of the region and the country, and actually internationally as well. So Richmond has a big impact if it does well.
And I think the other thing just to say is that, you know, I think it's still much too early to tell what the long-term impact of coronavirus is going to be. But what we've certainly seen over the last year, because we've all been working from home, or I say we all of us, obviously some people have had to carry on going out to work, but people who've been able to work from home have carried on working from home. And that, you know, and there's a lot of debate just at the moment, and I think time will tell, but, you know, to what extent that's going to be an ongoing you know, not just for this year, but carry on. And I know a lot of office workers that I know are talking about spending part of the week at home and part of the week in the office, because it's, you know, obviously we're all much more aware now of the value of face-to-face contact, but we don't have to do that all the time. So at places like Richmond and Kew and Barnes, you know, if we do see a lot more people working from home, well, they might be round in their actual local high streets during the week. And I think that's the sort of thing that we're going to see. And that could mean real revivals of places like Richmond High Street, or Kew, you know, the shops in Kew or whatever. And certainly a lot of the shops that were able to remain open during the lockdowns were, you know, did okay, because, you know, people were around, they were at home during the day, they were allowed out to go shopping to get essential supplies, and they took advantage of the opportunity. So it could really be for outer London town centres like we have in Richmond Park. It could be the start of some, you know, exciting new opportunities.
Actually, Richmond Park has some well-known reputable head offices, and this means when you don't need so many people all in the office, we can attract more head offices. And I think the head offices are good news as well, because they bring in really, really good consumers?
Well, I think to have offices in town centres where you're attracting high skilled, well paid jobs is brilliant for town centres, and I'm quite interested to see how the old Dickens and Jones is being redeveloped, because I know that there'll be some good quality office space there, and that could be a real kickstart for reviving Richmond town centre, which is obviously suffering from quite a lot of voids at the moment. So I think and exactly that, what the attraction of a city centre is perhaps less than it used to be, and Richmond is a perfect place because it's got good transport links to get employees in from across London and from quite a wide area outside of London, going all the way up to Windsor and wherever.
It's an attractive place to come.
And it's a great place to come, and it's got lots of interesting bars, restaurants and cafes for people who want to socialise at lunchtime or after work, and marvellous, really marvellous places to go for a walk. People need to get away from their desks. So
absolutely.
I was going to say all businesses should relocate to Richmond. I don't think I mean that, but certainly we welcome new businesses in Richmond, and it's a marvellous place to be.
And in terms of business rates reforms, this is something we've been discussing within the forum of the London Chamber of Commerce. And I think it'll be, they're saying that they will have recommendations by the end of the year, or something they will be getting somewhere in Q4, I believe. And they're looking at, well, the committee that have been working on this are talking about more regular, ideally, if it's at all possible, to have the ability to have more evaluations in terms of business rate levels,
more frequent revaluations.
Yes,
I think that would help, but I don't know that it's necessarily the wholesale reform that we're looking for, because
and
what we're seeing,
tax on profits they're talking about, aren't they? So people working from home, businesses working from home, could actually find that they will be looking to raise money from those businesses to make up for monies they're not getting from bricks and mortar.
I think the failing of the current business rates regime, as it were, which may have worked in the 19th century or whenever it was introduced, but it doesn't really work now, is that businesses are taxed on the value of their property that they trade out of. And they may not own that property, some do, some don't, but their business income, it does not relate to the value of the property. And places like Richmond, we see that really quite starkly, because the market value of the property will be quite high compared to many other places. So, but that doesn't necessarily mean that just because you're trading out of a building that has a high market value, it doesn't mean that you are therefore making significantly more income than a business down the road. So I think it's the fact that the tax is divorced, if you like, from the actual value of the business. That is, I think, the biggest problem, certainly for Richmond retailers.
So would you welcome a tax on profits, more of that approach rather than the business rates?
That certainly addresses the issue that I just described. What the Liberal Democrats have been pushing for is that the tax should be levied on landlords. They're the people who directly profit or benefit from rising market rates, so that's our solution. But
they're rejecting that, aren't they? Because I heard this within the London Chamber Forum. The issue is getting hold of landlords, and then the landlords then would pass it on. But how would they pass it on, and when? And when would the government get their money?
Well, I think that's right, that landlords would pass it on, but then at least it's negotiable as part of your agreement with your tenant, whereas rates at the moment are non-negotiable. So I think that would be the shift that would be of value to tenants. But I mean, we'll obviously evaluate the proposals when they come out. But I think one of the things we really do need to see is, particularly in the retail sector, a way of leveling the playing field between bricks and mortar retailers and online retailers. And I think we can't deny, and we shouldn't necessarily attempt to stop this, we can't deny that consumers are moving online. And that was a shift we were seeing before coronavirus. Coronavirus has accelerated that. I know, there'll be lots of people, and I very much include myself in this, will be desperate to get back to physical shops once they're able to. I hate shopping online, and I know quite a few people share that. But nevertheless, there'll be some people who have moved to online shopping and will stay there. And we have to accept that the future of retail is going to be a mix of online and bricks and mortar. But it's about leveling the playing field. Why should all of the business rates be paid just from the people who have town centre shops? And for me, it's about recognising that town centre shops provide a community value that you simply don't get from online retailers. They provide a town centre, they provide, like a town square, and that's places where people can go and they can meet. It's a visiting spot. It's somewhere where and we've all, got a much keener, I think, appreciation of the need to get out of the house and go and meet people. And even if you're only bumping into people that you know informally, or you're just meeting someone for a coffee, or even you've just gone out by yourself and you're just sitting in a place where there are other people, it's so essential that we maintain that. And so, yes, we do need some new thinking about our town centres and how we use them. And if traditional retail isn't going to make up our town centres, then what is?